What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of JK Sports, a super serious sports podcast. Jack, you and I are not the biggest Olympic fans of the Winter Olympics ever, nor did we watch the entire 3-period and overtime stretch of the gold medal match hockey game this morning. But we did wake up in time to watch the 3rd period and overtime, and it seems like it was one of the most incredible moments in American Olympics history. Jack, give me your thoughts on everything that happened with today's match.
Yeah, so I set my alarm last night at midnight for like 6:15 because it was gonna start a little later. So I was like, get up at 6:15. I woke up at 7:30, just in time to get the notification that it was going into the 3rd period, tied 1-1. I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. Like, I'll flip it on, and we got absolutely dominated in the 3rd period. Like, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but like I can tell when one team is better than the other, and Canada was much better than the US were, at least in the 3rd period. Didn't watch the first or second, but it seemed like we were just on the heels of the skates throughout the whole 3rd period. Even when we were up a guy, it seemed like we couldn't do anything. So I was like, let's just get to overtime. Anything happens with 3-on-3. And then sure enough, like 2 minutes into overtime, 3-on-3, you get the steal and you're on a 3-on-1, and they cashed in, and the US ended up taking down the big old Canada.
Yeah, and the context behind it is it's the first gold for the US in 46 years. It was revenge for 2010, which I can barely remember 2010, but it's a moment that stood the test of time as far as international hockey goes. With the Sidney Crosby golden goal, who did not play today because he was out with injury. And it was great because one, Connor McDavid still hasn't won the big one, which is a great storyline to watch. Two, Connor Hellebuyck is the GOAT. I mean, Jack Hughes got the game-winning goal, but Connor Hellebuyck was the best player in the world today. You were right. Canada was completely dominant. They were taking it to the U.S. I mean, there's all the screen grabs on Twitter right now of guys shooting what looked to be the game-winning goal, what should have been the game-winning goal for Canada. And then Hellebuyck was still able to get all the stops. It was incredible. He was insane. The tribute to Johnny Gaudreau after the game, how could you not love that? I mean, I was emotional watching it, reading the stories after about how awesome of a moment, how awesome of a team this was. And it really feels like if we look back in another 10, 15 years, this is one of those, like there's the 92 Olympics where the entire world fell in love with basketball because of the 92 Dream Team in basketball. 2010 was like that for the US because we lost, and so we've been working for the last 16 years to get to this moment. And it's one of the greatest moments in sports in the last few years, decade. I mean, just the reaction to it from all over the country, all over the world, it's been incredible.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to go look at the highlights because there was at least 5 times in that just 3rd period alone where I was just like, how has Canada not scored? And it's all because of Hellebuyck. So if you did not get to watch this game, I very highly encourage you to go look at those highlights.
Yeah. Let's move on to a sport that we know a little bit more about, Jack. And I have to say, if you started watching basketball yesterday from the time Arizona Houston tipped off to about 5 minutes left in the BYU game when Iowa State had cut it down to 5 minutes, or cut it down to 2 with 5 minutes left, it was one of the best days of college basketball that I think we've ever seen. Obviously, Michigan, Duke, Arizona, Houston, but you also had the craziness of UCLA, Illinois, Kentucky, Auburn was insane. Um, and yeah, I'll let you go first. What game do you want to start with?
Yeah. So for the first time this season, it feels like I was locked in to my TV from, like you said, Arizona, Houston down to 11 p.m. when BYU or Iowa State finished. But the game that really piqued my interest the most has to be Michigan Duke. Watching that game, because like I've watched those two play, but like not really intensely. Like I'm always doing something else while I'm watching those two teams play. But I was really locked in, and these are the two best teams in the country, in my opinion. I don't see. I mean, you can add Arizona in, sure, if you want to. But if I had to pick right now, we're going to see Michigan Duke back fighting for that national title come April. I said Duke was going to win this game. To one of my friends is a big Duke fan, and I asked him what he was thinking about the game, and I said Duke was going to win by 10, I think I told him. They ended up winning by 5, but just the collective defensive effort on both ends of the court was the thing that stood out most to me in this matchup.
Yeah, and you're looking at this. Michigan's number 1 in defensive rating. Their number and Duke's number 3. So two of the best defensive rating teams in the country. Michigan's offense is a little bit better according to KenPom. If you're just looking at the KenPom numbers, it certainly lived up to the hype. Anyone wondering about how this would look? I thought the turning point in the game was when Mara picked up his second foul and had to go to the bench. It felt like Duke really didn't have an answer in the first half for him, but then he picked up the second foul, and then in the second half they were able to exploit some of his weaknesses a little bit more. But I feel like Michigan probably could have had a little bit more separation, probably could have gone into halftime up, because they were up like 8 to 10 points for a lot of that first half. Like they were in control that first half. But eventually, like when Mara, when Johnson, all those guys got into foul trouble, then it felt like the game evened out. And then the second half, Duke was able to make the adjustment. So to me, I feel like Michigan really lost it in the first half because of that foul trouble. Mara definitely fouled a couple times, but that block on Boozer was clean, and I think that's a call that you have to let go in these type of games where it's that close, because I mean you saw it when Mara went out of the game that Michigan changed offensively and defensively. Duke was obviously the most deserving team, and what stood out to me, one, was Cam Boozer was like far and away the best player on the floor for 40 minutes. You had Landeberg, who went off in the first half, which was really fun. There wasn't really anyone else on Michigan who really popped off the screen, though, as when it comes down to like creating their own shot, which is always where, for me coming into the season, I thought, man, the weakness of this team is like when there's 5 minutes left, who are they going to go to like create their own shot? It's pretty clear with Duke. It's Boozer, and even though they don't have necessarily a true point guard, they have guards that can create their own shot and get to the basket. And I thought that was a difference. Duke, the front lines of both teams were even, and Duke's guards were just better in this one.
Yeah, I think it was like Mara played like 6 minutes in the first half
Yeah.
or something crazy like that. And so you are absolutely correct. I think if Mara was able to play this game fully, I think Michigan ends up winning this game because of how big of a difference he makes on the offensive and defensive side. But also, Duke out rebounded them by 13 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't happen if Mara is on the court for 30 minutes rather than 20. And so I am curious to see what happens if Michigan is full strength, if those calls aren't made. And then the other thing is Cadeau just needs to be 5 times better than what he was
Yeah.
against Duke if they want to win a title this year.
Yeah. And I've honestly been a bigger fan of LJ Kaysen than Cadeau for most of the season. Obviously, when Cadeau is like on at his peak, he's better than Kaysen, but I feel like Kaysen just is more consistent overall. And you kind of saw in that first half, Kaysen came in and kind of kept the lead for Michigan for the most part. But in the second half, they kind of got him the ball, and they weren't able to. He wasn't able to get going in the second half, and once that happened, I knew that this game was kind of over because if Cadeau and Kaysen are both struggling, then it comes down to just can Michigan score in the post. But you really can against a good team because they're all loaded up to stop Landeborg and Johnson and Mara. And if Kaysen and Cadeau aren't able to beat you from the outside, that's when things get difficult for Michigan and the offense kind of looks a little rudderless because they're not able to knock down threes. And honestly, like Michigan's shooting like 37% from three this year. They were 6 of 25 from three yesterday. If they go 9 of 25 from three, I mean it's a completely different game. I mean if Cadeau doesn't miss that layup in the final 2 minutes or whatever, that wide open scoop shot that he had, maybe Michigan's able to pull it out because they put the pressure on Duke. But once he missed that game was kind of over. We talked last podcast on Monday about the team, about who we thought the favorite was to win the national championship. Does this game change that in your mind? Do you think like if it's Michigan Duke again, are you picking Duke or are you picking Michigan because Michigan's probably still favored if they rematch again? Would you pick Michigan in the rematch or are you still going with Duke?
It depends on what day you ask me, honestly, because I really do think that if these teams played 10 times, I think it's a 5-5 type battle. And so,
Oh yeah, it's a 7-game series for sure.
oh, absolutely, and it's going 7 every time. I would probably lean towards Duke due to the fact that it just feels like they have everything that you want out of a title contending team.
Yeah.
Not saying that Michigan doesn't, because it really is a 50-50 coin flip on who you pick in this game. I just really like Cam Boozer. I like the leadership he shows at 18 years old. They got the vet in Foster. You got the outside shooting in Isaiah Evans. And then you got the indoor presence. So, I mean, and then you look at Michigan and they have the exact same formula. And so it's really just what team do you almost want to win. And for me, it's Duke because I like the way that Cam Boozer plays. I like the way he has low key just flown under the radar in the most weird sense because we're only talking about AJ and Darren, it seems like. Whereas Cam Boozer I think he has a higher floor from those two, but he has a lower ceiling. And so that's what I like out of Cam Boozer and Duke.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Cam Boozer not scoring like 21, grabbing 9 rebounds, getting like 3 or 4 or 5 assists a game in the NBA for like 9 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the upside with AJ and Darren is more appealing as far as like getting like a generational superstar. Before we get to those two guys, which both played in kind of eye-opening games, let's hit Arizona Houston real quick. So Arizona was a 6-point underdog. They were missing Kopi and Dwayne Airstode, and Braden Burries was sick. I mean, I mean, Fran Fraschilla kept saying, "Oh, you can just see how sick he is," but I think that's more. I think he's saying that, and I think basically before the game or whenever they were meeting, Tommy Lloyd was like, "Burries is gonna play, but he's so sick he probably shouldn't be playing." Is kind of how I was interpreting that. Was um, Fraschilla was just hitting that home over and over and over again. And I don't think that's something he would have done if he didn't know exactly how sick he was, which must have been really sick. So, but he was playing. And so my philosophy when it comes to that is if you're on the court, I'm grading you as if you're healthy. So, yeah, Burry's had a bad game, but there's kind of an asterisk there. Jaden Bradley, I didn't think he was great until the final 5 minutes of the game. You had Toby Awaka and Krivas in foul trouble yesterday, and they still went into Houston on the road. Houston hasn't lost back-to-back games in probably since Kelvin Sampson started coaching at Houston is what it felt like. They hadn't lost back-to-back games in the Big 12 ever. It was their second ever loss at home in the Big 12. And they went in and they led for, I believe, 90% of the game, start to finish. There was the one run Houston made in that second half, but outside of that, Arizona was the better team. In my opinion, they were the better team on the floor for like 35 out of 40 minutes. Jack, what stood out to you the most from Arizona's not upset but more surprising performance?
Yeah, the biggest thing that stood out to me is no matter what Arizona looks like, somebody's going to show up. Someone's going to find a way to keep Arizona in this game. Because, like you said, you look at this team and you're like, Kobe Pete's out. Burries is sick. Like, they should not be in this game. But Del Orso comes off the bench and says, hold on, wait a minute. I'm going to give you 20. And so, which is back-to-back games for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I saw that was most eye-opening. It's Arizona. They don't have one guy that's going to beat you. They don't have an A.J. DeBonsa. They don't have a Darren Peterson that you have to worry about. It's finally, we stopped Burries for 30 minutes of the game. But they have a guy named Del Orso who shot 8 of 14 against you and gave you 20. They have a guy in Karchenkov who's been frustrating your best player all night and scores 15. And it's a quiet 15. And it's just, you just go on and on with this Arizona team and the way that they have structured their team. They don't need Burries to score 20 a game. They just need him to be a distributor. He needs to play the system in a way that the team is going to score, and that's what they did last night.
Yeah, and honestly, in my opinion, it felt like Arizona could have won this game by even more, but they were dreadful from the free throw line, especially Jaden Bradley. I couldn't tell you what was wrong with him, but he was struggling for the first 30 minutes of the game. Kind of righted the ship. Had the two turnaround pull-ups late in the game that kind of sealed it for him. But you're right, like Anthony Del Orso, Karchenkov, both guys who are looked at as role players, like guys who are going to fill their role, but when you need them to. I mean, you have freaking Anthony Del Orso, he's like doing a crossover step back 3 and draining it, or he's like getting to the rim, attacking closeouts, like something that I did not think he could do, honestly. And I've watched him play for a couple seasons. The way he was able to catch and rip on those closeouts was super eye-opening. When Arizona was reeling, they were like, okay, whoever has Kingston Fleming on him, that guy, we're going to spread the floor and let him attack. Karchenkov just bullied him, just took him to like 8 feet away, got the little jump shot floater right over the top of him. For Houston, that was where I was like, oh, that I'm not used to seeing that from Houston. Like, I'm not used to seeing their guards get bullied, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're used to seeing their guards be able to push the other bigs out of the paint, that's what you're used to seeing with Houston. You're used to seeing that physicality. You're also not used to seeing a streaky Houston type team. And that's
Mhm.
what this team is, in my opinion. They are streaky. I mean, they shot 20 of 56 yesterday at home. They shot 35% from the field. Like, that's just not going to do it, especially at home. Like, you need to shoot better at home. Sharp shot 2 of 11. So that's what it comes down to. It just feels like this is a different Houston team. They shoot more threes than they have in the past. They're streaker on offense, and it seems like they're not as physical. I mean, obviously, they're still a physical team. It's a Samson type team still, but you don't have those guards that you're used to just banging down low, giving you 94 feet of hell. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think and I think you kind of touched on it. They're very, very reliant on jump shooting this year. I thought Arizona did an incredible job at keeping them outside of the paint, especially the guards driving to the basket. And it was like, okay, hey, like you're gonna have to bomb away from three. And Houston did miss some open ones, I'll give them that. But I never felt like Houston really got a good look more than like a handful of like more than like once every like 4 or 5 possessions. Like it felt like Arizona was really controlling the game on the defensive end of the floor. They were also able to rebound well, which is really important against Houston. Even when you were playing Karchenkov at the 4, like they were getting rebounding really well, which is always a concern when you go small against Houston is rebounding, but they were able to do that. For me, I thought the Arizona win with all the context behind it, guys being sick or injured on the road, I thought that was the most impressive win yesterday, not to take anything away from Duke because obviously they were spectacular as well. Arizona, I was like, man, I don't know if this team is quite at the level of Arizona and Duke or as Michigan and Duke, excuse me. I think they're right there. You look at KenPom, Arizona's third, Duke is second, and Michigan's first, but they're all at least 3 points higher than the fourth place team, Illinois. It's those three teams, and then there's a humongous gap between those three and the rest of the country this year. Um, but yeah, any other thoughts on those three teams before we hit some of the funnier outcomes from yesterday?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking yesterday, and I was talking to one of my roommates about it and like where you want to be come March. And I think it's going to be those three teams in the Final Four, and that fourth region is just going to be absolute chaos
Yeah.
because there isn't a fourth team this year. I mean, like we said last podcast, it could be Houston, it could be Florida, it could be Illinois, it could be 1,000 different teams that come out of that next region. And so that's what I am super interested to see on who's in that fourth region and what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. BYU, Iowa State. Yesterday, the committee came out with their top 16 teams seeded, and Iowa State was maybe surprisingly, maybe not that big of a surprise. They were the fourth 1 seed yesterday. They went into Provo, and I thought, really kind of just got their butts kicked from start to finish. Obviously, they had a couple runs in there, but I thought for the most part it was BYU being the better team on the floor for most of the game. Jack, what was your biggest takeaway from the Cougars' first win against a really they have quad one wins, but this was their first win against one of the quote unquote elite teams, top 10, top 15 teams in college basketball this season.
I mean, I thought it was a perfect game by BYU personally. The way that they executed both offensively and defensively, the way that AJ played. He was assist away from another triple double this year. He had, I think, 2 turnovers, which is something that I've really has been. That's the biggest thing for me with AJ's game is it seems like he has 4 to 5 live ball turnovers a game. This game, BYU did not have many live ball turnovers. We had more turnovers than Iowa State, 11 to 10, but they weren't live ball, which made Iowa State play against I guess a setup defense rather than getting out and running as they do most of the time. And so I thought BYU for the first time in a long time played as a real team. Like genuinely, they looked like a team. They got Mood Davis the ball in ways that he is used to getting the ball back last year. Bolskovich played like a starter for a D1 team. Kaba finally got out of his shell because we actually decided to start throwing lobs to him. And so BYU finally has realized that we can play to everyone's strengths at the same time, and that's what happens. This is the outcome that happens if you play to every single one of your guys' strengths that is on the court.
Yeah. The first takeaway I had watching this game was, man, Iowa State has no rim protection at all. And I thought that was the biggest reason for success for BYU, was that they, weren't challenged. But, when they've gone against a Krivos at Arizona, when they've gone against a Tugler at Houston, when they've gone against Badunga at Kansas, right? They've kind of struggled to get to the rim and finish strong and confidently when teams have had that kind of shot blocking big presence on the floor. Iowa State just doesn't have that, so it was a perfect matchup for BYU. The second thing was Rob Wright scored 6 points, and if I had told you that when the game tipped off yesterday, you would have said Iowa State won this game by 20. If I had just showed you Rob Wright's stat line at the end of the game. But going with that, like there were guys that played well, like Mihailo played well, Kada played well. Moo Davis, I thought when they were having him run ball screens, I don't love that yet, but he was really good catching and ripping and getting to the basket. He was moving a lot more, other than just standing in the corner. And he, needed a game to like get his confidence going, and hopefully this was the one. But the thing that stood out to me the most was if you run good offense, and even if you miss, like Mihailo did or like Davis did, if you run good offense and you take good shots, even if you miss, you're going to have a better chance of getting the offensive rebound playing that way, than if it's just like an isolation kind of basketball with Rob and AJ, kind of what it has been for a lot of conference play. Like, even when Mihailo was missing all those threes in the second half, it wasn't killing BYU because they were able to get back in transition because they were taking good shots. They weren't taking wild shots out of control. They were able to get back in transition and limit Iowa State for the most part. Obviously, Iowa State's what they do best is getting out in transition and finishing, so you can't completely take it away. But I thought just you run good offense, you take good shots, even if the first one doesn't go in, you're in a better position to get the second shot. And it helps your defense so much when you take good shots. I think a lot of BYU's issues have been they take bad shots, and if they go in, then it's great, but they're still out of position. And if they go out, then they're really out of position. And how many times this season have we seen them scrambled getting back, and then all of a sudden Kada starts the possession matched up on a guard or a wing that he just shouldn't. If BYU's switching, they're very heavy switch team, right? If they're switching everything, that happens in the structure of the defense. But when he just like is running back and has to like start out on a guard, it screws up the entire possession defensively. And I don't remember seeing that happen a single time yesterday. And I thought that was the difference, was that they were really good in those little areas, and it showed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is definitely the best game that BYU has played this season, without a doubt in my mind. Obviously it came against Iowa State, so if you beat Iowa State, you tend to play well. Um, but it also comes down to the effort, like you were saying. 12 offensive rebounds for BYU compared to 6 for Iowa State, and that just comes down to effort. And an unsung hero for this team from here on out has got to be in Boop as well. I mean, he comes off the bench and he just lights a fire. Like, it could be the simplest thing, and you see him in the corner just screaming his guts out. And that's the type of guy that this team needs, that really any team needs, is a guy like Mboop to come off the bench and just really just bring the energy levels back up. Whether you're up or down, doesn't matter. A guy like this is going to make a difference, even if it doesn't show up in the stat sheet.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything you're saying, Jack. The effort stood out to me as well. And Khadim Boop kind of embodies that for BYU, and I've really loved watching him find his footing in the last couple of games. And I think he only played 17 minutes. I want him to play 30. It's a guy that's grown the most this season, and I can't wait to see his future, hopefully at BYU. You never know these days with the transfer portal. Let's move on to a guy that we're both familiar with, and a guy that was cheated out of a win yesterday. Jack, did you catch the end of Kentucky Auburn?
Yeah, I mean, I was in and out of this game because I was getting dinner before the BYU game. So I watched bits and pieces of this, but it was a physical matchup. And so I think that's where Mark Pope was getting at, because in all reality, it's a foul on Chandler, respectfully, to Mark Pope. He extended. It was a foul, plain and simple. Like,
Yeah.
the ref, it probably wasn't that ref's call to make because there's two closer ones there. So he did insert his way into this game, that ref did, but it was the physicality throughout the whole game, and then they called that to end the game, is where Mark Pope felt like he got cheated.
Yeah. I see where he's coming from, and it's so annoying because if you're the defense in that situation, you can basically bear hug the guy before the ball's inbounded. And the refs just won't call it, right? And so what are you supposed to do as an offensive player? You're supposed to get into them. You're supposed to get really physical, and then if they're grabbing you, and especially when they're reaching around and grabbing the back of your jersey, like a lot of the times they do, yeah, guess what? If you're calling Chandler, you're gonna get in there. You're gonna use that forearm right to get in there, and then make a decisive cut away from them, right? But what happens is when you do that and the guy's locked on your jersey, well, guess what? He pulls you with them, and then it looks like a foul. And so I understand why the ref saw that, but it's one of these things in basketball, and it doesn't happen as much in the NBA. They'll usually call the defense. They'll call the pre-inbound fouls on the defense if it's egregious. In college, dude, there is no. I mean, the game is lawless at that point. The defense can do whatever they need to, and half the time it's like, well, how are we supposed to get the ball in when they're just reaching out and grabbing us and not letting us get open? I mean, we've seen that in 2 BYU games this year where once the rules go out the window and BYU can just grab everyone, they've made 2 like 10-point comebacks against
awesome.
Arizona, right? Oh, I'm sure it's awesome if you're the defensive. It's awesome if you want to see a close game, right? But for a head coach to see how the game's officiated, especially in those instances, has to be super frustrating. I understand where Mark Pope's coming from. I think it was a defensive foul first, and then Colin Chandler committed an offensive foul. But when both teams are fouling, you have to let it go. You have to let it go, and the refs didn't, and they still almost got a miracle shot at the end of the game. Again, which they've already done once this season against LSU, right? They almost did it again, but yeah, it doesn't detract from the fact at all that I like to drink Mark Pope tears, though. I mean, when he loses, he is he's one of the worst. He's one of the worst losers that we have as far as coaches in college basketball. Mick Cronin, bad loser. He does not take losing well. Mark Pope does not take losing well. He'll say stuff in the press conference that's like all he'll keep it above board, but then he'll let you know. He'll let you know. He'll walk out of the press room and yell so that everyone's phones still pick up what he says. He'll let you know. You know, he's trying to protect.
But he does not swear. He does not swear.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that, but
yeah, MFers.
He said, MF.
He kept it PG at least. He kept it PG at least. Oh, speaking of, I forgot to mention this. Did you hear the Houston fan on the hot mic the entire game during that Houston-Arizona game?
I did not, actually.
Oh, dude, there were a lot of F words that made it onto the broadcast. You'll go back and just go back and listen. And there is, I think it's if you watch the game closely, I think it's the fan that stood up behind Kelvin Sampson every single time. I think there was a mic right around there because they have the cameras like right next to the table, right? I think it was that camera was picking up everything he was saying. And the guy was, it was gold. It was gold, Jack. It was not safe for work. It was not safe for children. It was a very hot mic in the Houston-Arizona game. The last crazy finish that we'll get to is UCLA-Illinois. Illinois, number 4 KenPom team, number 1 offense in the country as far as offensive efficiency goes. But Jack, they're only 30th on defense, and they'll make any team they play look like one of the best teams in college basketball. UCLA made an insane comeback. They were down, 23, 24 points. Forced it to overtime, and then Donovan Dent had the game-winning coast-to-coast layup in 4.9 seconds. Obviously, there were a lot of things that went wrong for Illinois. Let's start with the final play of the game. You can't let them just drive without getting touched, without getting turned in the final 5 seconds.
Right. I mean, it's a catch-22 for any defense because if you bump them, they're going to flail. Refs might insert themselves, call a foul. You never want to lose a game at the foul stripe. But you also don't want to lose on a wide-open layup. And so that's the catch-22 that all defensive fear. My philosophy is no matter what, keep it outside. And if you lose on a 3, you lose on a 3. So in my opinion, you first keep it outside. Second, get it out of the best player's hands. That's what it comes down to. Like if a role player hits a 3 on you and you close out decently well, you shrug your shoulders. Oh man, that sucked. But if their best player is taking it coast to coast with a wide open layup at the end, that's inexcusable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought so Wagner was, I think, the initial defender. He did not make the greatest effort, but he's also just slow. We've talked about it on the podcast before. He's just slow. I have no idea what Stojakovic was doing because it was his guy that screened screened Wagner around half court. He was nowhere to be found. He did not make an impact on that play at all, right? I mean, if there's a screen there, he needs to be there to trap, to turn, to something. Even if he gets beat, he has to make Dent change his direction or get rid of the ball, right? Because in that situation, if you make Dent pick up the ball and pass, the worst that's going to happen is it's going to be a jumper for the win, unless there's just a guy wide open at the rim. But there wasn't in that situation, right? But he just is completely out of the play. He just completely misplayed it. Dent just blows right by him and gets to the rim. The whole game was crazy. Overtime was crazy. The end of regulation was crazy. But it just, I mean, we talked about it, like the best 3 teams in the country, they're all top 5 in both offense and defense. Illinois is 4 because their offense, it's one of the best offensive teams we have ever seen in college. They shoot the ball incredibly well. They're one of the few teams that relies on jump shooting and is a reliable enough jump shooting team that they can actually win a national championship, but their defense is really, really bad. Their team, where when it comes to March Jack, I'll make 10 brackets and half of them Illinois will lose in the first round and half of them they'll make the Final Four. It is the most high ceiling, low floor team that I think we have in the top 10, 15 of college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit Illinois perfectly. There are games where I look at them and I'm like, this is a Final Four team. And then you look at them and you say, this is going to be my first round upset. And so it's the craziness of college basketball. It really is.
All right. To close it out, Jack, let's get to some NBA thoughts. Quick NBA check-in. We'll have something more in depth soon. What right now, with all the injuries to all the teams right now, how everyone's season has gone so far, what is your NBA finals right now?
I know I've been saying Thunder this whole year, but it seems like that team will never be healthy this year. And so they will not be playing at full health throughout the whole playoffs. And so I took the Nuggets to get to the finals out of the West because that's the team that I saw the Thunder struggle with the most last year. And so them being at full health, potentially with Aaron Gordon, is a team that I will definitely be looking out for come NBA playoff time. They will be facing off against the Celtics because they have been a quiet 3rd seed all year. They've been hanging out in that top 4 really the whole year. And Jason Tatum's playing 5-on-5 right now. And his reemergence, along with Jaylen Brown playing the best season he's ever played, this Celtics team is looking like they want another chance at this trophy come playoff time. So still a little early, but I really do think that the Celtics have the formula to make it out of this honestly weak East.
Yeah. I'll start with the Celtics. I think it's them or the Pistons. I'll go with the Pistons right now just because I think the health is on their side. Basically, what I mean by that is Jason Tatum, he's not going to be the best version of Jason Tatum. And I think the Pistons defense is good enough to slow down the Celtics. And I think it also comes down to the center position. Vucevic is fine. Kata has been a revelation, but he's no Jalen Duren, right? He's no Jalen Duren. And I think Duren and Stewart and Paul Reed, I think that front court is just a little bit better and too much for the Celtics to handle. Without a fully healthy Tatum right now, we'll see. I mean, if Tatum, the thing that I think the biggest subplot for the rest of the NBA season is, can Tatum reintegrate himself into the lineup without taking away anything that Jaylen Brown's doing and just add? Can he be an additive piece and not kind of subtract? Because we've seen the last 2 seasons that they haven't won championships, it's because Tatum is taking a lot of step back threes, or the ball gets really sticky in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter of games. And sometimes he's great and he hits the really difficult shots, but can Tatum come in and kind of break the bad habits that kind of sunk them over the last season or so? But yeah, I'm going with the Pistons. I think Cade is probably, I think he probably wins MVP, because I don't know if Shea or Jokic are getting to the minimum game threshold. And I think the MVP is Cade's to lose right now, unless Jokic plays. I think he can only miss 1 or 2 more games for the rest of the season. And I think Shea's almost to the point where he might be out of it in, like, if he doesn't come back in another week or two, I think he's kind of out of it as far as MVP goes. And I think it's Cade's to lose. Maybe there's someone I'm overlooking
Luka.
right now. Okay. Luka number wise, yes, I see that, but
Right. I mean,
but
yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just think with the name, they're going to give it to Luka if he hits that 65 game threshold more than Cade Cunningham, because of the name on the back of the jersey and in the front of the jersey, honestly,
yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, I think that definitely helps Luka's favor. But if you at the end of the season, if it's not Luka or Jokic, or sorry, if it's not Shea or Jokic at the end of the season, Cade's third in my mind. Like, he's the MVP for me. What he's been able to do to carry that Pistons team to, albeit a weaker Eastern Conference than we're used to seeing. But yeah, and then I'm with you. I think the Nuggets get it done this year. They were my pick. They were my pick in October. They're my pick now. If Aaron Gordon is healthy, they will win in the NBA Finals this season. Last couple things, Jack. So recently, if you turn into local Utah sports radio, the trendy topic to talk about is how the Jazz are being scapegoated for tanking this offseason, getting fined a lot of money for losing games in the streets are saying unethical. I'm not a Jazz fan, so I have my opinions about the Jazz tanking and tanking in whole. What are your thoughts on the Jazz tank? How they're they're playing hard for 3 quarters and then taking guys out and losing games on purpose in the fourth quarter. Give me your thoughts on this whole and this conspiracy that the NBA is making the Jazz a scapegoat to their gambling companies and TV companies, saying, hey, we're punishing the Jazz, we're trying to fix tanking.
I do have a couple thoughts. First off, if this is about gambling, why are you gambling on the Jazz? First off, that's my
Or just be smart and bet Jazz first half and bet the opposing team second half.
You could honestly make more money.
You just gotta bet it about it. You gotta bet it live.
If you bet it live, like, it's as simple as can be. So if it's about betting, like, we have an issue outside of the NBA personally.
Yeah. Maybe
But
that's a good podcast where we teach people how to bet on tanking teams.
we'll just go live and um,
Wait until the third quarter when they're up by 10.
and then you take the Magic.
And yep.
But
And then, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there was only really one game that this happened and it actually worked, and that was against the Magic. Because they did it again the next game against the Heat. But guess what?
And
We beat the
won.
Heat. We beat the Heat. And so like, and I do look at like the projections of points and everything for player props and stuff like that. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is a usual around 20.5. He doesn't have to play the third quarter to get that. So if you're even betting on Jaren Jackson points, he's scoring 26 before the fourth. So, I mean, there's just so many things that just doesn't really compute with my head with the betting area of the tanking. But when it comes down to it, I have a group chat and I was kind of talking about how I would change it. This is never going to happen because the NBA is all about money. But how I would fix tanking if I was Adam Silver is I would lower the games to about 50. That allows your guys to stay healthier because you're not going to be playing 4 games a week. You'll be playing 2 games a week. That being said, you're losing out on 30 games of revenue. And so
15 games of home revenue.
Correct. And so that's why the NBA is never going to do that, because it's all about money. And so if you have less games, you're going to have less opportunity to say, oh, I'm resting because we're on a back-to-back. Oh, I'm resting because my hamstring doesn't hurt. My hamstring hurts after playing 5 games in 8 days. It's stuff like that where people don't understand how taxing that really is. Plus all the flying, plus, I mean, there's just so many factors to the NBA and how taxing. You hear players talk about it all the time and how taxing it is. And that's what it comes down to, is making it less taxing on the body. So then these rest days aren't as important to players, where they don't have to be missing games. And so that's what it comes down to for me. The other thought I had was, like, you're never going to stop a team from tanking, respectfully. Like, there's always going to be a loophole in the NBA, because it's not like the NFL where you can have the 15th pick and get the guy that you would take if you had the number 1 pick, because that's what your team needs. There's always a consensus top 5, it seems like, in the NBA. Like, no matter what your team needs, you're going to pick these 5 guys 1 through 5. And so every team's going to find a loophole, because if you continue to give teams like the Mavericks and the Spurs the number 1 pick and keep giving the Jazz, the Wizards, the Hornets the 4 through 6, those bottom teams are going to stay in the bottom teams because they're not getting the best guy in the draft. They're getting the 5th and 6th guy. So I mean, I don't know. I think tanking is stupid. I don't agree with what the Jazz are doing, but at the same time, if you're arguing with the Jazz, would you rather have the Thunder have a top 10 pick? No. So it's ridiculous that the Jazz are being targeted for tanking when their pick would be going to the team that literally everyone hates and despises. Because guess what? They did exactly what the Jazz are doing now to get the team that they have now.
Right, yeah. We heard a lot less tears when the Thunder shut down a fully healthy SGA for like the last 2-3 months of the season. Like it at least if you're a Jazz fan, at least you get to see Lauri play 25 minutes a game. Right? Like, he's still at least playing. The Jazz could just say, "Oh, hey, Lauri, sorry, you're going to be you're not going to play for the rest of the season. You're just going to kind of take it easy, get shots up in the practice facility. You'll go to the home games. If you want to come to us when we go play in Miami and Orlando, if you want to come on that road trip, fine. Like, they could do that. They're not quite doing that. I'll say this about tanking. Right now, tanking is the best strategy for teams to get better, especially for the Jazz. So I don't blame the Jazz at all for what they're doing. I mean, you look at the Thunder and the Spurs. It's how they tanked, and now they're the two best teams in the NBA. Pretty substantially too, honestly. So tanking, I don't fault any team for tanking. The Jazz kind of do it in a way where it's like when you sit guys in the fourth quarter and give up those kind of leads, it gets to the point where it's like, man, it's just like come on, Utah, like you can't be like it's one, I think it's a lot about the gambling and the sponsors and stuff, right? Two, I think it's about guys like if you just want to say they're hurt, fine. But like if you're like actively going to try and lose games in the middle of the game, that's when it becomes a little bit harder to stomach. And so I think it's one, the way they've been going about it. As my thoughts in tanking in general is, I think at this point, I think you just give, honestly, every team that doesn't have home court advantage in the playoffs, you give them an equal chance, like equal odds in the lottery, right? You give them equal odds in the lottery. And then you just say, if you pick in the top 4 one year, you will not pick in the top 4 the next year. Right? That way you don't get teams tanking for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, right? Like, at least every other year, the team that gets a 1, 2, 3, or 4th pick, they're like, man, there's not a whole lot. There's no point in tanking because we're not going to get a top 4 guy in the draft this year, right? Mm-hmm. So that eliminates at least 4 bad teams from tanking every year. You make the odds so small in that window. You make the odds so small that the teams that are like right on that playoff bubble, they don't have any incentive to lose, to get out of the playoffs, right? Like you won't see the Clippers or the Blazers who are going to be the 10th seed in the play-in, like we saw the Mavs do a couple years ago when they got Lively, where they were like, yeah, we're in the play-in, but actually we're going to sit Luka for the last 5 games of the season so that we can keep our pick, right? I think you have to change protections on picks completely. I think you go top 4 protected and lottery protected, and that's it. Like you can't have any of these weird, like the Jazz protection where it's like top 7, 8. Yeah, I think, or honestly, you just do a lottery protected pick. I think you take away a lot of these pick protections that are so weird and goofy and just so hard to track, honestly. I think you just make them standard where like you can only protect it to this much, and then you won't have a team like the Jazz who feel incentivized to tank, because if it was lottery protected, then they would be fine. They would be fine, right? And then guess what? If they made it in the playoffs and that pick conveyed and it's like the 16th pick in the draft, would you rather have the 16th pick in the draft or make the playoffs? Playoffs, right? It's way more important to your franchise. And honestly, like you get playoff revenue too, which is going to help the bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, and guess what? If a team like, let's say, let's say the 76ers, well, no, because they got a first 4 pick last year. Let's say the Charlotte Hornets, who are what, the 8th seed in the East? Mm-hmm. If they got the first, if by the ping pong balls, fell their way, right? The lottery balls fell their way. If they got the first pick, would that suck or would that be awesome?
For them, it would be awesome.
Right? But like they're not like a team. But next year, if they got Darren or AJ, it would take them to a higher level, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just would. And I guess they had a top 4 pick last year too. I'm trying to think of a team. I'm trying to think of a team who fits if the I don't know. If a team that didn't pick in the top 4 last year that's like in the like 7, 8, 9 seed range got the first pick, then I think that team should like they deserve a slight chance at getting a one of one player, right? Maybe not as big of a chance as like the worst team in the NBA, right? Um I don't know. I just think there's way that we just say, hey, it's even from this like tier of teams and below. Make the odds, make it be so many teams in there where your odds of getting the number 1 pick, like if you're the last team or the best team in the lottery, like your odds are so close together that there's no incentive to tanking, right? And then it really comes down to just being good at drafting, right? And then if you get lucky and you get a top 4 pick one year, make it count because you're definitely guaranteed to not have another top 4 pick the next season.
Yeah. I mean, the more you talked about it, the more I do like that idea. I think it should involve less teams though. So like say like the bottom 10 teams
Mm-hmm.
overall. It's almost like okay, if you pick in the top 5, you can't next year for the bottom 10 teams. Something
Mm-hmm.
to that extent. I really thought that was an interesting way to go about it. And in my opinion, I think we just get rid of protections, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's just, hey, if you guys suck at GMing, then you don't get your pick. Like, that's
Yeah.
just on you. That's on you guys. You gave your pick away. You don't get all this top 8 protection. You don't get the 1 through 5 and then 10 through the rest of the draft. Like,
Yeah, that Pacers thing is
yeah,
weird.
like those should not exist. And so I'm with you on that. And I just think we should get rid of protections, period. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
are, say, the Clippers this year and you give up your pick, sorry, you're out of luck. You gave it
Yep.
unprotected. And I think that's how every pick should be. Because even the Jazz this year, oh, you gave up your pick to the Thunder. That sucks for
Yeah.
you guys. You should be better because you
And guess
traded that away.
and if in my opinion, if the Jazz just didn't have their pick going into the season, I think they'd be the
They can
8th
make
or
a
the 7th
push.
seed in the West. I really think they would,
Absolutely.
especially if they added a healthy Jaren Jackson. And I believe the surgery he got was legit. I also believe that he easily could have played on it for the rest of the season, gotten the surgery in the offseason, and been fine to start next season.
Absolutely.
Right. And so they could have had, and Keontae like would be playing in meaningful games at the end of the season. That would have been awesome for him. You probably go out and you try and sign a couple like free agents that make you better, that give you that veteran experience, right? Like you actually like go for it this year. And who knows, like maybe you're the surprise team in the NBA that the Suns were this season, right?
That's my thing because the Suns they gave their pick away and it's
Yeah, no
unprotected.
pick. Yeah,
And
no pick this
everyone
year.
said, "Oh, that team's a bottom dweller this year." Well, guess what? They're trying to win and they're winning. And so
Yeah.
I think if Phoenix had a top 8 protected pick to begin the season and the
Oh,
Jazz's
they're not
pick,
trying.
yeah, and the Jazz's pick was unprotected, they easily could be flopped right this second. So I
Mhm.
definitely agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on tanking before I go on my Phoenix Suns rant?
Let's hear it. Let's hear the rant to end the show.
Yep. Okay, so not sure if anyone was It was a great day of college
No,
basketball.
no
So
one
if
was
you didn't,
watching.
hey, I saw Bill Simmons tweet about it. I saw Bill Simmons tweet about it. So at least someone besides me was watching, right? It was quite possibly one of the worst games of basketball aesthetically that I've
when
ever watched.
when I heard double overtime victory, I said, "Oh, this was it like 140 to 140?" And I looked at the box score, it was like 110 to 113 or something. I was just like, "What?"
Yeah, let me pull it up. Let me pull it up right now. It was really really rough. So
40 of 117 shooting. Your team put up 117 shots.
yeah, shot 34. I believe the stat was that a team that shot 30% or lower in the last like 25 years was like 3 and 200 and like 3 and 200 was the record. And the Suns were still able to win. You 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 had the Suns shoot 55 threes, made 16. Jalen Green was 2 of 11 from 3. Colin Gillespie was 3 of 10 from 3. Royce O'Neal was 2 of 9 from 3. Grayson Allen was 4 of 14 from 3, and I believe all of those came in the last minute of regulation or in overtime, if I remember right. Jordan Goodwin, the one player who could shoot, sprained his calf in the third quarter. He was 3 or 4 from 3. Dylan Brooks left in the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, with a broken hand. He's probably out for most of the regular season. Devin Booker has a hip strain. They could not guard Paulo Banchero down the stretch, but he was still bad. He was 11 of 28, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 turnovers. Desmond Bane was good, but he fouled out. It was a freaking awful game. The Suns were up 3 and somehow let Javon Carter get the ball for a wide open 3 at the end. It was horrible. Jalen Green went, he was 5 of 25 in the game and then hit a falling away, fade away 3 in the corner to win the game. Obviously, it was an electric game winner, but the Suns season ended yesterday, Jack. It sucks. It sucks because this has been, if you've watched, it's been one of the best, most surprising teams in the NBA. They play so hard. It's fun to watch this team play because they play so hard. I was telling my friends yesterday, last year I was numb. I didn't feel anything when the Suns play. This year, I'm exhausted watching the Suns play because they're frenetic, they're chaotic, they miss a lot, they rebound their own misses a lot. They shoot a lot of threes, like they're crazy. They're a crazy team. But it sucks. And injuries are going to ruin a fun season. Devin Booker is hurt. Dylan Brooks is going to be out at least a month, probably 5 weeks if I had to guess. I mean, I've broken my hand before and I was out 4 weeks. Depending on how bad the break was, it could be more than that. Jordan Goodwin, he's the heart and soul of this team. He'll come in. He's 6'2", but he's like one of the top 10 best offensive rebounders in the NBA this season at 6'2". Dog on defense, everything you could ever want. Now he's hurt. Grayson Allen is battling through a sore knee. He probably won't play tonight. Jalen Green has played in like 6 games so far this season. He started 2 of them. He might be out tonight with injury management because that hamstring is still liable to go at like any point. And I was so scared watching the game yesterday. I was like, man, Green and Allen, they're putting so many miles on these guys. Either one of them could re-injure stuff that they've already injured. It's so sad, Jack. This remarkable, fun, honestly, like feel good Suns story felt like it came to an end yesterday. And it ruined a Jalen Green game winner in one of the craziest games of the season.
Yeah. I unfortunately did not watch this game. I watched the game winner though. But I do feel for you. I feel for you as a Suns fan because I've been there with the Jazz multiple times. I've been there with BYU. So I know the pain. I really do. And
Yeah.
it sucks. Nothing sucks more than watching your team go down with injuries. And it seems like we have been accustomed to it at this point in time.
Especially recently, like we had Richie Saunders go down.
Yep.
It really was not a complete like copycat of the BYU Colorado game, but it was the exact same emotions.
Yeah.
2 Saturdays in a row. 2 Saturdays in a row. I felt like the season was over after watching my team win in overtime.
So what's it next Saturday?
Oh, dude. Let me get through. Let me get through the Trailblazers tonight. Let me watch Colin Gillespie and Royce O'Neal shoot like 33s tonight, and then we can get to Saturday. Then we can get to Saturday. I can't. I'm cursed, Jack. I'm cursed.
Yeah, you are.
I put my curse on teams. Sorry, Suns, you're cursed. That's just how it is.
Sadly.
But it's baseball season now. Spring training started. Diamondbacks have played 3 games, and I've listened to all 3, so I'm on the up and up. We're all good here. That's how sad it's become, Jack.
Yikes.
Spring training is helping me get out of my depression as a basketball fan.
That's depression as itself.
All right. Anything you want to say to people before we sign off?
Go Cougs. Big win.
Go Suns, I think.
People are counting us out. People are saying first round exit.
Yeah,
but guess
Jackson,
what? BYU they still have a good team.
An okay team.
A good team.
A good team. You're right. You're right.
An okay team does not beat Iowa State. A good team does. Yes.
Look, all I'm saying is getting off the bus, Iowa State looks more like a mid-major team.
It's true. Iowa State, I've watched Iowa State like 5 times. They have yet to impress me personally, but they're 23-3 or whatever. So,
yep, locked up Darren Peterson, something that they couldn't do to AJ DeBanza. All right, for Jack, this is JK Sports. We'll see you guys next time.